Hey, what's up everybody? This is Warcraft, and today I'm going to be showing you guys the gold farming strategy I've used to make the most gold, pretty much majority of my gold I've made in BFA. And these items you're selling are going to be going up in like the next week, maybe 2 weeks, and then they're going to start coming down. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, they're the Darkmoon trinkets a description can make. They're all 355. There's one for basically every class and like every role. So there's a healer trinket, there's a ranged caster trinket, there's a tank trinket, and there's a melee agility and strength trinket. Which the Fathom trinket, which is the agility and strength trinket, is the most expensive by far. These tests, the test numbers I have, were completed a few days ago, and the prices for all this stuff, they sold at all these prices insanely quickly. All these decks will sell in a day basically if you keep them from being undercutted, which you do have to watch them quite a bit, but they all sell so quickly. So what I did was I bought 5,000 herbs. I did herb some of these myself, but for the test I made them all be worth 30 gold a piece. I actually didn't spend 30 gold on a single one of these herbs. I bought most of them for 25 gold from trade, but I would say 30 gold is probably the average on most servers. I don't think there's really that big of a difference between any of the herbs for the item that you're getting to make these decks. So any herbs, most of mine were Winter's Kiss. Don't mill anchorweed at all. It's so much more lucrative just to put on the auction house and sell it normally, or make flasks if you're an alchemist with like 3-star flask making or something like that. But I bought 5,000, so that's 150,000 gold, and then I milled it all. And then you make decks after you create the inks for milling, and that's how you make the decks. Now when you make these cards, it's random, so there's 4 decks. The decks, you need 2 through 8, so you need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you need an ace, and then you right click it and it creates the deck for you. Even with this amount of herbs, I still had to buy a bunch of cards to fill out the decks, which you're going to need to do. It's still going to make you insane profit. So I did all of that. So these are all the decks I needed to fill out the decks. I still had a bunch of leftover cards that I added in and as selling. Pretty much all these cards sold too because other people trying to fill out the decks. But I bought 3 of Squalls, 6 of Squalls. The 3 of Squalls was 1,000 gold a piece. The 6 of Squalls were 3,600 gold a piece. 8 of Tides, 8 of Blockade. You don't need to know all the numbers, but this is just more basically gold I spent, but you're gonna get the like numbers of everything I made at the end. At the end of all of that, all the decks I had was, I had 2 Tides decks, I had a Blockades deck, I had 2 Squalls decks, and 1 Fathoms deck. So like the Tides decks were 60k, Blockades were 55, Squalls were 35, and Fathoms was still going for 150k then. It's a little bit cheaper now, but they still sell instantly. And basically, overall, the amount of gold I spent with all the herbs, with all the decks to fill it out, was 205,000 gold. So that's upfront cost, pretty much. If you don't have that much gold, you don't need to do it like this. I filled out all the decks I could, and I bought that many herbs at a time. You don't need to do that quickly. But that's how much I spent. And then I also sold all the Fathoms cards, so there's tons of different prices throughout all those. You know, like 2 of Fathoms is like 15k, 6 of Squalls is like 3k, so tons of different prices. And the overall gold I actually made from selling all this, now this doesn't factor in the amount I spent yet, was 516,000 gold. Oh yeah, also the blue and red dye or inks you get from these, I made all of those into the inks, then I just sold them. So it was like the blues were going for like 1 gold a piece, the reds were like 10 gold a piece, because blues are a lot more common. So I just added that into the amount of gold I made. Those all sold too. They sell super quickly. Everything's selling super quickly. But 568,000 gold, and I spent 205,000 gold. So that is overall a profit of 311,000 gold. Just for time. That is not farming anything. You could probably do this in a day or a couple days. Probably a day you could do it. If you want to spend if you're going by 30 gold for every herb, you can buy that off the auction house on my server even a little bit cheaper. But it took me a few days. It actually took me like a week to do all of this because I wanted to make sure everything sold. I wanted to get all these herbs from trade. Just for myself, I want to make more gold, so I basically bought all these herbs for 25 gold a piece. But that's 311,000 gold of pure profits that I actually made from buying 5,000 herbs. And then buying the cards to fill in and everything. So that is a ridiculous amount of gold. Now, with these decks, the reason I say they're going to be going up is because these decks are still super good for a lot of the classes. Like, a ton of classes, especially the Fathoms deck. Everyone is using those. Like, it's pretty much the best. A lot of these are the best trinkets before raid trinkets, and a lot of these are even better than a lot of the raid trinkets. So even when the raid's coming out, a bunch of people are still going to be buying them because, no, unless you're like a top raiding guild, your method or something, you're not going to be clearing like normals if you're a lower guild, or you're not going to be clearing heroic the first day or the first week, and then mythic comes out the second week. So people are still going to be buying these. The price are going to start going down after that, but the herb price are also going to be going down. So you can buy herbs cheaper and still be able to sell these. These are still probably going to be making a good amount of gold. For if you're buying all the herbs for like decent prices, they're still probably going to be making gold in say a month, probably pretty easily, because no one's going to be doing crazy mythic pluses either, like super early. And these trinkets are still super good. They're 355, so the highest you can get right now before the raid comes out, which is tomorrow, or it's 1 a.m. so actually right now, I guess, sometime soon. But yeah, I just wanted to show you guys this gold from. Oh, so you need Obliterum to make the deck pieces. So to make the random like cards, you need Obliterum. Now I didn't factor in any Obliterum price because it is pretty much impossible to factor in Obliterum. Now people say like you get 1 in every 4 of risks, which are the cheapest things to make, like green risks for most professions. People are selling these. I could get greens as cheap as like 80 gold in trade a piece, but it's really hard to factor those in, so that's a little bit less gold. But pretty much what I did was I either did, which I have videos on how I farmed all the materials on my channel already, the BOE farms or skinning farms. So I actually did both. So BOE mob grinding farms, humanoids that drop cloth, I would do that and make cloth bracers, which is 10 cloth a piece, and I would send those to my inscriptor, and I would scrap all of those and get explosion. And then on my skinner, I would just skin stuff, craft the bracers, which are the cheapest again, send those over and scrap those. That's how I got all my explosion. It's 1 explosion for 1 card, which is not super expensive. It's actually kind of cheap. A lot of other like crafting things would take multiple explosion, but I did not add that in for the pricing. It's pretty much impossible to add that into the pricing. You can take a bit of gold away. This isn't going to add any insane amount of gold. Like if you wanted to buy all these greens, if you bought greens for 100 gold a piece, it might add a few thousand gold to your like upfront costs. But still with that, I made 300,000 gold pure profit. So it's really not going to reduce your profits by that much. But I just wanted to add that in there. You need explosion. You can't really add that into like how much I spent overall. So I just wanted to let you guys know that it might be a little bit less. But I just want to let you guys know about this farming spot. It's still going to be good for, in my opinion, probably another month. You're still going to be making gold, even if you're buying everything up front and just crafting it. So you're going to be making gold. So make sure to leave a like if you like the video. Subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I definitely want to do more like videos about crafting with materials instead of just like mob grinding spots or just farms. So let me know what you think about videos like this, and thanks for watching. I also forgot to mention that after you craft all the cards and you need the 2 through 8 and aces to craft the decks, you can ask in trade or ask guild members or stuff like that if anyone wants to trade Dark Moon cards. Now basically what this is it usually be, depending on who you want to trade, it usually be like an ace for an ace, or like an 8 for an 8 or something. Usually people will be like, will trade the numbers for numbers and then aces for aces, because that's usually like the rarity differences. But yeah, you can just ask and trade and stuff like that. If like there's only one in the auction house or none in the auction house. I've actually seen that, where there's one type or there's one number, like an 8 of fathoms isn't on the auction house. So I was asking the trade. Sometimes you get lucky, like a friend who I basically been making like decks with, and we've just been both making decks, was able to trade like a Squall's ace for a Fathoms ace, which is the complete like opposite of what you should be doing. The Squall's is the cheapest and Fathoms is the most expensive, but I guess the person needed a Squall's ace, so they traded it. That's super lucky, but you can trade these. A lot of people will trade. You'll see a lot of people in trade actually looking to trade different cards. You used to actually be able to trade a vendor in Dark Moon Fair multiple expansions ago. You used to be able to trade like different cards or a specific card for like any card you wanted, but I just wanted to add that in. Make sure to try to trade for cards to fill out your decks before buying them. It can definitely help. I didn't do that specifically for the numbers of this video, but I do it when I'm just making gold for myself.